everyone, it's Jan, and I am here to once again invite you to come be a part of the Stash Diet Challenge that we are doing on Your Paper Pantry. It is under the recipe box. You'll find lots of different challenges that are there, and we'd love for you to come and join in. This first challenge for the Stash Diet, where we are working on slimming down our stash and using what we have in new and creative ways, is to use up our paper scraps. And if you have been involved in paper crafting of any sort for very long, you know that you end up with lots of little pieces left over, sometimes big pieces, when a project is done. And I know you're probably like me, you hold on to them because you know that at some point you will want to do something with them. But if I am not intentional about using them up, they begin to pile up and kind of take over. So I want to show you some ideas of things that I have done with some of my scraps from my little scrap bin and from my big bin of larger scraps. So here's some ideas, and it's just a jumping off point for you. I hope you will take these and come up with your own, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. This is one that I've done. This was a big piece of pattern paper that I had left over, and I did some stamping, a little embossing, took a piece of dictionary paper, did some more stamping. This actually is a tag that was left over from some classes that I did on techniques with texture fades, and so I just kind of put all those together. That's one. This is another way that you can use up lots of your scraps. Christmas had lots of projects with Christmas paper, but that left me with lots of little scraps, and so I cut them up into I guess these are 3-inch squares because there are 4 of them across. And so I just used multiple pieces and then took little pieces of white cardstock and made little folder envelopes that I could put pictures and a little bit of journaling in those. So another way to use up some scraps. This is another one that I did this one was really fun. My mom used to, the journaling on it says, Mom used to say, you give that girl an inch and she'll take a mile. And I had lots of little pieces of things, and what I did was I cut them into 1-inch squares. Some of them I added little embellishments on. This is a fragment of one of Tim Holt's fragments, put some behind it, put some dewdrops, and then I found an index picture of me. Let's see, it's just too glary for you to probably be able to see. There we go. And I put my picture on a 1-inch square and then just put them all together as a whole. And I like how that turned out. You can also do something like this, where if you have bigger pieces of scrap paper, you can just layer them one on top of the other just to give your picture a place to land. I cut out with my Cricut some letters from scrap paper. It's another one. This is a layout. This is me and my dad. I thought it was pretty cool. And all of this was just done with scraps from another project that I had been working on for a design team project. And so I just took all the leftover bits and pieces and just kind of brought them together. If you don't have a lot of something to use, go ahead and gather it together in the middle. Something that is, when you group things together, then they have a more solid feel to them. So that's another. Here's one I did that was probably a little more bizarre and artsy-fartsy. This is an old picture of Royce back in his, back in the 80s when being cool and wearing bell-bottom jeans, and he was in the music industry here in Nashville, so he had some has some kind of fun pictures that I want to go back and scrap. This background actually is all made with masking tape. I put little pieces of masking tape. I had some scraps of tissue paper that had music on it, and so I thought that would be fun to use it on this particular layout. I had some Tim Holtz bits and pieces, and I just took the letters to spell Royce's name. Anyway, those are just some layouts that I have done using bits and pieces from my stash. And what you try, none of these are from the same collection. They just all happen to be in there, and by grouping things together, bringing them towards the middle in this case, layering them on here, it gives you a little bit more of a solid. Even taking itty bitty little pieces of paper and pulling them together gives you something that is substantial. And by putting it on a black background, these that by themselves would have looked kind of lost pop. So those are some ideas of things to do with layouts. And let me show you a couple of cards that I've done as well. This card is basically 3 tiny strips of paper that I just put 3 of them down and then sewed in a checkerboard pattern. And then honestly, I used what was on my desk. I have a little bin that sits over next to my on my desk, that as I'm working on things and I have a bit or a piece of something that I am not going to use, usually little tiny embellishments that maybe I had some buttons out and decided not to use them, I just throw them in that basket. And so for this, I challenged myself that all the embellishments were going to have to come from that basket. And so this was a I Am Roses flower, and I just painted it with some Starburst stains. This was a stamp that I stamped and cut out. And again, all of these things were in that basket from another project. These are some cards that I did, and here's an idea for something to do, is to take, if you have scraps of cardstock or just a little bit of pattern paper, go and use your edge punches and make some repeating color. And by putting all of those together, it was a fun little background. You can see I didn't have very much left over of this paper. This was from October Afternoon, a project that I had been working on, and this was a little stamped image that I had colored. And you know, by using my scraps, I got a couple of cards made. And the last idea I'm going to throw out there is that your scraps are great for doing paper piecing. And these are some things that I did with some of my scraps, and I'm going to work on a card, and I'll come back and show you some of those. But like this is a little CC Designs girl, and I used some leftover scraps. And if you all leave a message and tell me that you would like me to do you a tutorial on how I did the paper piecing on these. This is the very first time that I had ever done paper piecing, but it's really fun because you just you stamp it several times and then put together your elements. This is a dress form stamp that I have, and I've actually cut off the stand to it, and I'm going to make a card out of that. These were some flowers. I had some pieces left over from, I believe it was Basic Gray Curio, and I stamped those and cut out the different petals, and then I put some distress stickles on them to give them a little bling. But these little girls, I think, are going to go into a mini album that I'm going to finish up for my niece. And this I'm going to do on a card. This also was made out of some of the curio scraps that I had. So if you'd be interested in knowing how I did the paper piecing, leave me a comment and I will work on getting a tutorial done on that. If not, I can't wait to see what you all do with your paper scraps. Please come join us over on Your Paper Pantry. It's yourpaperpantry.ning.com, and it is called the Stash Diet Challenge. Hope you'll join us. And for sure, take some time to play this week.